Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the shadows of the council chamber's upper gallery. He was not supposed to be there. The meeting below was marked as classified, forbidden to human representatives. But Jake had learned long ago that the most important decisions happened when humans were not in the room. The massive chamber stretched out below him like a vast bowl. Hundreds of alien delegates sat in their designated seats, their strange forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes. The Zephyrians, with their blue skin and 6 arms, gestured wildly as they spoke. The rock-like granite lords sat perfectly still, their stone faces showing no emotion. The snake-like serpentines coiled around their floating platforms, their scales catching the light. At the center of it all stood Council Speaker Zeth Kari. The tall reptilian leader's yellow eyes swept across the assembled delegates as his forked tongue tasted the air. His voice echoed through the chamber with the authority of someone who had ruled the galaxy for 300 years. "The void machines have consumed the outer rim," Zeth Kari announced. His words sent a chill through the chamber. 17 star systems gone in the past month. Billions of lives lost. At this rate, they will reach the core worlds within 5 years. Jake pressed himself closer to the railing. The void machines were ancient constructs from beyond the galaxy's edge. No one knew who had built them or why. They appeared from dark space like hungry ghosts, consuming entire worlds and converting the matter into more of themselves. The Galactic Council had been fighting them for 2 years with little success. "We have tried everything," continued a delegate from the Aquatic Union, her gills fluttering with distress. "Our weapons barely scratch their hulls. Our ships are destroyed before they can get close. We are losing this war." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Jake had seen the battle reports. The Council's fleets were being crushed wherever they met the void machines. Traditional weapons and tactics meant nothing against an enemy that could rebuild itself from the wreckage of destroyed worlds. "Then we must try something new," Zeth Kari said. "Dr. Velnash, present your plan." A small gray alien stepped forward. Jake recognized him as one of the Council's top scientists. Dr. Velnash activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy spinning slowly in the air above the chamber floor. "The void machines follow predictable patterns," Dr. Velnash explained. "They consume systems with high metal content first, then move to populated worlds. Based on their current trajectory, we can predict their next target." The hologram zoomed in on a particular section of the galaxy. Jake's blood turned cold as he saw the familiar yellow star highlighted in red. "Earth," Dr. Velnash said simply. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some delegates seemed excited by this news. Others appeared worried. Jake gripped the railing so hard his knuckles turned white. "This presents us with an opportunity," Dr. Velnash continued. "The Sol system has something unique, a perfectly positioned star with the exact mass needed for our plan. We can turn it into a gravitational trap." The hologram changed to show a complex diagram of forces and trajectories. Jake did not understand all the science, but he grasped the basic idea. They wanted to make Earth's sun explode in a controlled way, creating a massive gravitational well that would trap the void machines. The detonation would need to be precisely timed, Dr. Velnash explained. "We would evacuate the system's human population to nearby colonies. The sacrifice of one star system could save the entire galaxy." "Evacuate?" The question came from Speaker Orntha of the Silicon Collective. "That would require thousands of ships and months of preparation. The void machines would detect such a massive operation." Dr. Velnash's expression did not change. "The plan requires complete secrecy to succeed. We cannot risk the void machines changing course if they detect our trap. The horrible truth hit Jake like a physical blow. They were not planning to evacuate Earth. They were going to sacrifice 12 billion human lives without warning. "What about the humans?" asked Delegate Morgan from the Crystal Worlds. "They have been loyal allies for 50 years. They deserve to know their fate." "The humans have served the Council well," Zethkari agreed. "But they are one species among thousands. The needs of the many must outweigh the needs of the few. This plan could save trillions of lives across the galaxy." "They will never agree to such a sacrifice," another delegate pointed out. "Which is why they will not be asked," Zethkari replied coldly. "This information must remain classified. The humans cannot know what is coming." Jake felt sick. For 50 years, humanity had been faithful members of the Galactic Council. They had shared their technology, sent their soldiers to fight in council wars, and opened their borders to alien traders and diplomats. Earth had become a model member world, contributing far more than they received in return, and now the Council was planning to murder every human in the galaxy. "I call for a vote," Zethkari announced. "All those in favor of Operation Solar Flare?" Hundreds of hands, claws, tentacles, and appendages rose into the air. Jake counted them with growing horror. The vote was not even close. All opposed? Only a handful of delegates raised their voices in dissent. The Aquatic Union representative and a few others from smaller species. "Not nearly enough to stop the plan. The motion passes," Zethkari declared. "Operation Solar Flare will commence in 30 days. Dr. Velnash, begin preparations immediately. This meeting is classified under Council Security Protocol 7. Anyone who reveals this information commits treason against the galaxy." The delegates began filing out of the chamber, their conversations hushed but excited. Many seemed pleased that a solution had been found, even if it required such a terrible price. Jake remained hidden until the chamber was empty. His mind raced as he considered his options. He could try to convince the Council to change their minds, but the vote had been overwhelming. He could alert Earth's government, but that would be treason under galactic law. But what was galactic law worth when it condemned his entire species to death? Jake pulled out his encrypted communicator and began typing a message to Earth. His hands shook as he wrote the words that would change everything. "Council has voted for genocide. Operation Solar Flare targets Sol system in 30 days. They plan to detonate our sun to trap void machines. No evacuation planned. Recommend immediate exodus protocol. We trusted them, and they betrayed us all." He paused before sending the message. Once he pressed that button, there would be no going back. Humanity would be at war with the entire galaxy, but they were already at war. The Council had declared it when they voted to murder 12 billion innocent people. Jake pressed send. Down in the empty chamber, the holographic display still showed Earth's sun marked for destruction. Soon it would show empty space where humanity's homeworld had been. But if Jake had his way, the Council would find nothing but ghosts when their trap was finally sprung. The betrayal was complete. Now it was time for humanity to leave. President Alex Stone read Admiral Morrison's message 3 times before the words truly sank in. He sat in his office in Geneva at 3 in the morning, the city lights twinkling outside his window. In 30 days, those lights would be gone, forever. Everyone he had ever known would be dead. "Get me General Walsh," he said to his aide, "and wake up Dr. Blake. Tell them we have a code black situation." Within an hour, the most important people in human government were gathered in the Situation Room deep beneath the presidential palace. The room was designed to survive nuclear War, but it had never been tested against the death of the sun itself. General Pete Walsh looked tired but alert. The old soldier had seen enough wars to know when everything was about to change. Dr. Ryan Blake appeared confused, still wearing, his pajamas under his lab coat. He was Earth's top physicist and had been working on classified projects for the past decade. "Gentlemen," President Stone began, "I'm about to tell you something that will sound impossible. In 30 days, the Galactic Council plans to destroy our sun and everyone on Earth." He explained Morrison's message and the Council's plan. General Walsh's face grew darker with each word. Dr. Blake went pale as he understood the science behind the proposed trap. "Those bastards," General Walsh muttered. 50 years of loyalty, and this is how they repay us." "Can we fight them?" President Stone asked. "Fight the entire galaxy?" Walsh shook his head. "We have maybe 200 ships that could threaten Council forces. They have millions. It would be suicide." "Then we run," President Stone said simply. "Dr. Blake, is Project Wormhole ready?" Dr. Blake shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Project Wormhole was humanity's most classified secret. For 20 years, human scientists had been developing quantum tunnel technology in hidden laboratories throughout the solar system. The official story was that humans were researching faster communication methods. The truth was far more revolutionary. "The quantum drives work," Dr. Blake admitted. "We can create stable wormholes across galactic distances, but we've only tested small ships, moving entire populations." "How many people can we evacuate?" President Stone interrupted. "If we use every ship we have, maybe 8 billion, but we'd need at least 6 months to prepare for something that large." "We have 30 days, General Walsh pointed out grimly. "Doctor." Blake was quiet for a long moment. Then his eyes lit up with sudden inspiration. "Unless—" "President Stone, how much of our military budget has been spent on secret projects over the past 20 years?" "About 60%. Why?" "Because I think we might have been preparing for this day without knowing it." Dr. Blake activated the room's holographic display. "Show classification level Omega files, authorization Blake 77 Alpha." The display filled with images of massive shipyards hidden in asteroid belts and behind gas giant moons. Hundreds of ships in various stages of construction filled the screen. They were unlike anything in the official human fleet, sleek, advanced, and built with technology that seemed almost alien. "For the past 2 decades, we've been building a shadow fleet," Dr. Blake explained. "The Council thinks we're a young species still learning basic space travel, but we've actually been holding back our real capabilities." President Stone stared at the images in amazement. "How many ships?" 15,000 vessels of various sizes, from massive colony ships that can hold 2 million people each, down to fast scouts and cargo haulers. "We told the Council we were building mining platforms and research stations. They never bothered to inspect them closely." General Walsh leaned forward. "Can these ships carry our entire population?" "Every human in the solar system and all our colonies," Dr. Blake confirmed. "The quantum drives can open tunnels large enough for the biggest ships. We could be on the other side of the galaxy in minutes." "Or outside the galaxy entirely," President Stone said quietly. "The Council betrayed us once. They might do it again if we stay in their territory." The next 24 hours were a blur of activity. Secret messages went out to human colonies throughout Council space. Military commanders who had been preparing for this day their entire careers activated long-dormant plans. The Shadow Fleet began moving into position. Captain Maria Santos commanded the largest colony ship in the fleet. The vessel was officially listed as an asteroid mining platform, but it was actually a mobile city capable of supporting 2 million people for decades. She had been preparing for evacuation scenarios since she was a junior officer, never knowing if the day would actually come. "All departments report ready," her first officer announced. "Quantum drive is charged and stable. We can open a tunnel on your command." "Hold position," Maria replied. "We move as one or not at all." Similar scenes played out across the solar system. Passenger ships disguised as cargo haulers filled with families. Military transports that looked like research vessels loaded scientific equipment and weapons. Even the space elevators had hidden purposes. They were actually giant launch systems capable of moving millions of people into orbit in a matter of hours. The Council's spy networks noticed the unusual activity, but dismissed. It is routine human inefficiency. Humans were always moving things around for mysterious reasons. Their reports noted increased traffic, but classified it as unimportant. On Earth, the evacuation began in secret. Entire cities emptied overnight as people were told they were being relocated for security reasons. The story was that the Council had detected a terrorist threat and needed to move civilians to safety. It was not entirely a lie. Dr. Blake worked around the clock to coordinate the quantum drives. Each ship needed its tunnel calibrated precisely to avoid catastrophic accidents. One mistake could tear a hole in space-time itself. "Where are we going?" Captain Santos asked during one of the coordination meetings. President Stone had been thinking about that question for days. "Somewhere the Council will never find us. Dr. Blake, your long-range sensors have mapped nearby galaxies. Which ones are uninhabited?" "There are 3 candidates within range," Dr. Blake replied. "Andromeda is too close. Council scouts visit it regularly. But there are 2 smaller galaxies about 4 million light-years away. No intelligent life, plenty of habitable worlds, and completely outside Council territory." "We split up," General Walsh suggested. "Multiple destinations make us harder to track. If one group is discovered, the others remain hidden." President Stone nodded. 3 groups, 3 destinations. We maintain radio silence for at least 50 years. After that, we can decide if it's safe to make contact." The evacuation accelerated as the deadline approached. Humans throughout the galaxy received coded messages telling them to prepare for immediate departure. Most did not understand what was happening, but they trusted their leaders enough to follow orders. On evacuation day -7, something went wrong. A Council patrol detected unusual energy readings from one of the hidden shipyards. The patrol ship approached to investigate, its sensors probing the disguised facility. General Walsh watched the tactical display with growing tension. "If they get through our camouflage, they'll see everything. The quantum signature is too strong to hide." "Completely," Dr. Blake admitted. "If they do a detailed scan," the Council patrol ship began transmitting scan data back to its base. Within minutes, the truth would be revealed. "Fire," General Walsh ordered. The hidden shipyard's defensive systems activated. Weapons that the Council had never seen before reduced the patrol ship to atoms in seconds. But the damage was done. The ship's final transmission had been sent. "They know something is wrong," General Walsh said. "We have maybe 6 hours before. They send a full investigation fleet." "Then we leave now," President Stone decided. "Signal all ships. Operation Exodus begins immediately." Across the solar system, the Shadow Fleet came alive. Quantum drives hummed with power as 15,000 ships prepared to disappear forever. Families said goodbye to the world that had been humanity's home for millions of years. Captain Santos felt her ship shudder as the quantum drive engaged. Reality twisted around them as a tunnel opened in space-time itself. Through the viewing ports, she could see other ships entering their own tunnels, carrying humanity's future to the stars. "Tunnel stable," her navigator reported. "Transit in 10 seconds." Maria looked back at Earth one last time. The blue marble hung in space like a jewel, beautiful and doomed. In 30 days, the Council would detonate its sun and murder any humans who had stayed behind. But they would find the system empty. Humanity was leaving, and they were taking all their secrets with them. "Take us through," Maria ordered. The ship vanished into the quantum tunnel, following 12 billion other humans into exile among the distant stars. Director Kate Wells stood on the observation platform of New Terra and watched ships the size of moons drift between artificial stars. 500 years had passed since humanity fled the galaxy, and the species that emerged from exile bore little resemblance to the refugees who had once begged for acceptance from the Galactic Council. New Terra itself was a marvel that defied physics. The planet existed in a pocket of controlled space-time, orbiting an artificial singularity that provided unlimited energy. The world's surface was shaped by human will rather than natural forces. Mountains moved when needed, oceans appeared where water was required, and the weather obeyed the desires of its inhabitants. "The morning reports, Director," her aide announced. Amy Foster had been Kate's assistant for 30 years, though she looked barely 25. Human science had conquered aging decades ago, among many other former limitations. Kate accepted the data tablet and reviewed the numbers that would have seemed impossible to her ancestors. Human population had grown from 12 billion refugees to over 2 trillion citizens spread across 3 galaxies. They had colonized 40,000 worlds, built artificial planets around dead stars, and created space habitats that dwarfed anything the old Council had imagined. "The Ascension Project shows promising results," Amy reported. "Dr. Foster's team has successfully transferred another 1,000 volunteers into quantum consciousness. They report that existing as pure energy feels more natural than biological." "Form," Kate nodded. The Ascension Project was humanity's most ambitious experiment. Volunteers could abandon their physical bodies and exist as conscious energy patterns, capable of traveling at light speed and experiencing reality in ways that flesh and blood could never achieve. Some ascended humans had become living starships. Their consciousness merged with vessels the size of small moons. "Any word from Admiral Torres?" Kate asked. "The Ghost Fleet reports from the barrier zones. 3 more Council scout ships detected near the rim. They were observing from a distance but made no attempt to cross into our territory." The Ghost Fleet was humanity's early warning system, ships that patrolled the edges of their territory, using technology that made them invisible to almost any sensor. Admiral Chris Torres commanded vessels that existed partially outside normal space-time, able to observe without being observed. Kate walked to the platform's edge and looked out at the bustling activity in orbit. Massive ships moved between the stars like whales swimming through an ocean of light. Some were traditional vessels crewed by biological humans. Others were living entities, ascended humans who had become one with their ships. A few defied easy description, constructs of pure, thought that existed only as organized energy patterns. "Schedule a meeting with the Strategic Council," Kate decided. "We need to discuss the intelligence reports from Scout Leader Hayes." Nick Hayes had returned from a deep reconnaissance mission with disturbing news. The old Galactic Council was dying. their empire crumbling under attacks from threats they could not understand or defeat. Part of Kate felt satisfaction at their fate, but a larger part worried about what was coming. 2 hours later, the most powerful humans in 3 galaxies gathered in New Terra's command center. The room itself existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, allowing participants to attend both physically and as energy patterns. Some council members appeared as their original human forms, others as geometric shapes of living light, and a few as pure consciousness speaking directly into the minds of their colleagues. Admiral Torres materialized as a projection from his flagship on the galactic rim. His form flickered between human appearance and something that resembled a living constellation. "The situation in the old galaxy is worse than we thought," he began. "The void machines have returned." The room fell. Silent. Everyone remembered the stories of the ancient enemy that had driven humanity into exile, the machines that consumed entire star systems and converted matter into copies of themselves. "How bad is it?" asked Dr. Sandra Kim, humanity's chief strategist. She appeared as a pillar of silver light, having ascended beyond physical form years ago. "They've consumed 60% of the old galaxy in the past 100 years, Torres replied. "The Council's forces can't stop them. Their technology has barely advanced since we left, while the void machines seem to have evolved." Scout leader Hayes stepped forward, his form solid and biological among the ascended beings. He preferred to remain in his original body, claiming it helped him think more clearly. "I infiltrated 3 Council worlds during my mission. There, civilization is collapsing. Entire species are fleeing to the galactic rim, but the machines follow them. The Council has lost control." "Good," said a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. It belonged to Paul Reeves, the master of humanity's quantum warfare programs. He existed now as a distributed consciousness spread across multiple realities. "They betrayed us. Let them face extinction alone." "It's not that simple," Kate interrupted. "The void machines won't stop with the old galaxy. They're spreading through the universe, consuming everything in their path. Eventually, they'll reach our territories." The debate that followed lasted for hours. Some council members wanted to remain hidden and hoped the machines would never find them. Others argued for helping their former oppressors, claiming it was the right thing to do. A few suggested taking advantage of the Council's weakness to conquer their territory. "We have capabilities they never imagined," pointed out Admiral Torres. "Our ships can delete matter from existence. Our weapons can rewrite the laws of physics in localized areas. We could end the void machine threat permanently." "But should we?" asked Amy Foster, who had remained quiet until now. "If we reveal ourselves, there's no going back. The galaxy will know we survived, and they'll know what we've become." Kate considered the options. Humanity had transcended its original limitations so completely that they bore little resemblance to the species that had fled 5 centuries ago. They could manipulate space and time, exist as pure energy, and command technologies that seemed like magic to less advanced civilizations. They had become gods. The question was whether gods had any obligation to save mortals who had once tried to kill them. "Show me the current tactical situation," Kate ordered. The room filled with a 3-dimensional map of the known universe. Red zones marked areas consumed by the void machines. The infection spread like a cancer across the galaxy, leaving empty space where billions of stars had once burned. At their current rate of expansion, they'll reach the Andromeda Galaxy in 50 years, Torres calculated. Our outer colonies in 200 years. Then we fight, Kate decided. Not to save the Council, but to save ourselves and every other living thing in the universe. The void machines are a threat to all existence. What about revealing our presence? Amy asked. Kate smiled, an expression that seemed strange on her ageless features. Who says we have to reveal ourselves? Our technology is advanced enough to destroy the machines without showing our faces. The Council can wonder who saved them. The strategic planning began immediately. Humanity's war machine was unlike anything that had ever existed. Their fleets could travel instantly across galactic distances using quantum tunnels. Their weapons could unmake matter at the atomic level or trap enemies in pocket dimensions. Some of their ships were controlled by ascended humans whose consciousness spanned light years. We'll need to study the new void machine variants, Dr. Kim pointed out. They've evolved since the last encounter. Our weapons need to be calibrated for maximum effectiveness. I'll take a stealth fleet for reconnaissance, Torres volunteered. We can observe the machines in action and identify their weaknesses. Be careful, Kate warned. We've grown powerful, but we're not invincible. These machines consumed civilizations more advanced than the old council. As the meeting broke up, Kate remained on the observation platform, watching her transformed species prepare for war. The humans who had once begged for acceptance from alien masters were now preparing to save the galaxy that had betrayed them. But they would do it on their own terms, as the gods they had become rather than the supplicants they had once been. The age of human exile was ending. The age of human dominance was about to begin. Speaker Veltar stood in the ruins of what had once been the greatest council chamber in the galaxy. Half the ceiling had collapsed when the void machines attacked the Nexus Prime station 3 months ago. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows across broken alien statues and twisted metal. The mighty Galactic Council that had ruled for 1,000 years now consisted of barely 50 delegates from less than 20 surviving species. Entire civilizations had vanished in the past century, consumed by machines that seemed unstoppable. The Grand Alliance that had once commanded millions of worlds now controlled fewer than 1,000. "The Third Fleet is gone," reported General Korthak, his beetle-like form missing 2 of its 6 arms from recent battles. "Lost at the Vegan system yesterday. No survivors." Veltar closed his eyes and tried not to think about the billions of lives that number represented. The Council's military forces had been crushed in every engagement with the void machines. Their technology seemed primitive compared to the evolving enemy that learned from each encounter. "That leaves us with less than 200 ships," noted Dr. Zass, the insectoid scientist who had replaced the long-dead Dr. Velnash. "Insufficient to defend even our core worlds." "The crystalline worlds have fallen," announced another delegate, her aquatic form trembling with fear. "The machines consumed the entire system in 6 hours. They're adapting faster than ever before." Veltar looked around the pathetic remains of galactic civilization and wondered how everything had gone so wrong. 500 years ago, the Council had been triumphant. They had stopped the first void machine invasion using Earth's sun as bait. The plan had worked perfectly, creating a gravitational trap that destroyed the ancient enemy. But the humans had vanished just before the trap was sprung. The Council found empty colonies and abandoned space stations where 12 billion people should have been waiting to die. Even Earth itself had been evacuated completely, leaving only ghost cities and automated systems. At first, the Council assumed the humans had somehow detected the plan and hidden in deep space. Search fleets were sent to find them, but no trace was ever discovered. As decades passed, most council members concluded that humanity had chosen exile over sacrifice, fleeing to distant galaxies where they could never be found. Now, Veltar wondered if that exile had been a blessing rather than a curse. "We need to consider alternative strategies," Dr. Zass continued. "Perhaps if we abandon the rim worlds and concentrate our remaining forces around the core systems and give up half the galaxy." General Korthak's mandibles clicked with agitation. "We would be trading temporary survival for certain defeat. Better than losing everything in a hopeless fight," Dr. Zass replied. The argument continued, but Veltar barely listened. He had heard the same desperate discussions for months. Every strategy ended the same way: gradual retreat until there was nowhere left to run. A communication alert interrupted the debate. The chamber's main display activated to show Commander Troy Mitchell, one of the few council officers still stationed on the front lines. Mitchell was human, one of perhaps 1,000 who had remained in council space when their species vanished. Most had been off-world at the time of the Great Exodus, serving in council fleets or research stations. "Speaker Veltar," Mitchell reported, his image flickering with interference. "I have urgent intelligence from the Void Machine Advanced Scouts." Veltar leaned forward. Mitchell had proven himself a capable officer over the centuries, earning respect despite his species' abandonment of the Council. "What have you discovered, Commander?" "The machines have changed their pattern of attack. Instead of consuming systems sequentially, they're now targeting specific locations. Worlds with high populations, advanced technology centers, and military. Shipyards are being hit simultaneously across multiple sectors. The implications were terrifying. If the Void machines could coordinate attacks across thousands of light years, no defense would be possible. The Council's remaining forces were already stretched too thin to protect their scattered territories." "How is this possible?" Dr. Zass asked. "The machines have never shown this level of strategic thinking before." "I believe they're being controlled by a central intelligence," Mitchell replied. "Something is directing their actions with perfect coordination. The random consumption pattern from before was just them learning our weaknesses." Veltar felt his last hope crumble. A coordinated enemy with perfect intelligence and unlimited resources was impossible to defeat. The Council's civilization would be extinct within months. "There is one other possibility," Mitchell continued hesitantly. "The old records mention that humans had contact with other species before joining the Council, civilizations from outside our galaxy who might have survived the first Void machine invasion." "You think the humans found allies?" General Korthak scoffed. "Even if they did, what could they do against enemies we cannot defeat?" "Perhaps nothing," Mitchell admitted. "But we have exhausted every other option. I request permission to attempt contact with any surviving human populations." The council chamber fell silent. The idea of begging help from the species they had betrayed centuries ago was humiliating, but pride was a luxury they could no longer afford. "How would you even find them?" Dr. Zass asked. "Our search fleets found no trace." "The humans were more advanced than we gave them credit for," Mitchell replied. "Their quantum technology was beyond our understanding even 5 centuries ago. If they survived, they would have capabilities we can only imagine." Veltar made his decision. "Do it. Send a galaxy-wide broadcast on all frequencies. Tell the humans that the Council admits its betrayal was wrong. Offer them full partnership in whatever remains of our civilization. Promise them anything they want if they will help us survive." "And if they refuse?" General Korthak asked. "Then we die with honor," Veltar replied. "But perhaps they will show more mercy than we showed them." The broadcast went out within hours, transmitted on every communication channel the Council could access. The message was simple and desperate. To any surviving humans wherever you may be hiding in the universe, the Galactic Council acknowledges that our betrayal of Earth was morally wrong. We condemned your species to death to save our own. We understand if you cannot forgive us, but the void machines have returned stronger than before. They will consume everything if they are not stopped. We offer full partnership and shared leadership of whatever survives. Please help us. The galaxy is dying. Days passed with no response. Then weeks. The void machine advance continued, consuming world after world with mechanical precision. The Council's remaining fleets fought desperate, delaying actions, buying time for civilian evacuations that saved millions, but not billions. Captain Luke Gibson monitored the broadcasts from his concealed observation post near the galactic rim. His ship was equipped with sensors that the Council had never imagined, capable of detecting quantum signatures across vast distances. He had been watching the old galaxy's death spiral for decades, reporting back to human command. "They're really desperate," his communications officer noted, "broadcasting on every frequency, begging for help from people they tried to murder." Desperate enough to mean it? Gibson wondered. Or is this another trap? His sensors detected massive energy signatures moving through the galaxy's spiral arms. The void machines were accelerating their consumption, working with coordination that suggested intelligence far beyond their original programming. "Captain," his science officer reported, "I'm detecting quantum tunnel signatures near the core worlds. Someone is using advanced teleportation technology in Council space." Gibson frowned. Human ships used quantum tunnels, but they had orders to maintain strict observation protocols. No direct intervention without authorization from the Strategic Council. "Are they ours?" he asked. "The signatures are similar but different, more advanced than our current drives. It's like someone took our technology and improved it by centuries." Gibson felt a chill of recognition. "Set course for the quantum signatures. Maximum stealth. I think we're about to discover who's really controlling the void machines." As his ship slipped through folded space toward the mystery signals, Gibson wondered if humanity was about to face an enemy even more dangerous than the machines consuming the galaxy. The Council had betrayed them once and was now begging for help. But what if there was a third player in this cosmic game, someone who had been manipulating events from the beginning? The answers waited in the dark between the stars, where gods and monsters played games with the fate of entire civilizations. Supreme Commander Rachel Stone stood in the Quantum Command Center of New Terra, as reality itself bent around her will. She was the great-granddaughter of President Alex Stone, but she bore little resemblance to her ancient ancestor. Her consciousness existed simultaneously across multiple dimensions, her thoughts processing information at light speed, while her physical form appeared as shifting patterns of organized energy. "The Strategic Council has reached consensus," announced Admiral Danny Brooks, his form materializing as both physical matter and quantum probability waves. "We intervene, not to save the Council, but to eliminate the void machine threat before it spreads beyond containment." Rachel nodded, her decision rippling through space-time itself. Around her, the command center hummed with power that could reshape galaxies. Human technology had evolved far beyond anything their ancestors could have imagined. They had become beings of pure will, backed by science that bordered on magic. "Dr. Reeves, what have you learned about the machine evolution?" Rachel asked. Paul Reeves existed now as a distributed consciousness spread across quantum computing networks spanning entire star systems. When he spoke, his words seemed to come from the fabric of reality itself. The void machines are not what they appear to be. They're not ancient constructs at all. They're weapons created by a species that transcended physical existence eons ago. The real controllers exist outside normal space-time. The revelation shocked even Rachel's advanced consciousness. You mean someone has been controlling them this entire time? Not controlling. Programming. The machines were designed to consume. Civilizations that reach a certain level of technological development, they're a cosmic reset button preventing any species from advancing too far. Too far toward what? Admiral Brooks asked. Toward becoming what we have become, Rachel realized. The controllers fear species that transcend their original limitations. The void machines were meant to keep the galaxy primitive. The implications were staggering. Humanity's exile had saved them from more than just the Council's betrayal. It had allowed them to evolve beyond the hidden limits imposed on galactic civilization. Prepare the Revelation Armada, Rachel commanded. We return to our birth galaxy, but not as refugees. We return as gods. The ships that emerged from quantum, tunnels above the dying Council worlds, defied all understanding of physics. Some were the size of small moons, their hulls forged from crystallized space-time itself. Others existed as pure energy constructs, visible only as geometric patterns of living light. The largest vessels seemed to be made of folded reality, their true size impossible to measure in normal dimensions. Admiral Brooks commanded the lead ship from a bridge that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously. His crew included biological humans, ascended energy beings, and hybrid entities that were part flesh, part quantum computer, and part living starship. Council ships are hailing us, reported his communications officer, a being of pure thought, who had once been human but now existed as organized information patterns. Let them see us, Brooks replied. It's time they understood what their betrayal created. The revelation of humanity's return sent shockwaves through what remained of galactic civilization. The primitive refugees who had fled 5 centuries ago had returned as entities that seemed to wield the power of creation itself. Speaker Veltar watched from the bridge of one of the Council's last battleships as the human fleet positioned itself between the remaining Council worlds and the approaching void machine swarm. The machines had accelerated their advance, sensing the arrival of something that threatened their mission. They're not even the same species anymore, whispered Dr. Zass, her insectoid form trembling as sensors tried to analyze the impossible. Human vessels. The energy readings are off the scale. They're manipulating fundamental forces. Commander Mitchell, the human who had remained loyal to the Council, stared at the fleet of his transformed people with a mixture of awe and sorrow. We chose different paths, he said quietly. They chose to transcend. We chose to serve. The void machines struck first, their reality-devouring weapons capable of unmating entire fleets. But when their weapons struck the human ships, something unprecedented happened. The attacks simply ceased to exist, deleted from reality as if they had never been fired. Dr. Reeves, his consciousness now expanded across the entire human fleet, began the process of defeating an enemy that had consumed countless civilizations, initiating quantum warfare protocols, beginning reality revision in local space-time. What followed could not be described as a battle in any conventional sense. The humans did not fight the void machines. They simply decided that the machines had never existed, and reality rewrote itself to match their will. Entire machine fleets vanished as their quantum signatures were deleted from the universe. Consumed worlds reappeared as the destructive effects were reversed through temporal manipulation. Star systems that had been devoured decades ago returned to existence, their populations restored from quantum backups stored in the fabric of space itself. The hidden controllers of the void machines finally revealed themselves, emerging from their dimension outside normal reality. They appeared as beings of pure mathematics, ancient entities that had transcended physical form billions of years ago. They had created the void machines to prevent younger species from following their path. "You should not exist," they communicated, through probability waves that bypassed normal language. "No species should advance beyond the limits we have set." Rachel's response echoed across multiple dimensions simultaneously. "You set limits for primitives. We are no longer bound by the rules that govern lesser beings." The conflict between transcended humans and the ancient controllers took place on levels of reality that normal matter could not perceive. They fought with weapons made of crystallized logic, shields constructed from absolute concepts, and tactics that involved rewriting the laws of physics in localized areas. In the end, humanity's victory was inevitable. The controllers had stagnated in their transcendence, becoming rigid and predictable. Humans retained the adaptability and innovation that had allowed them to survive the Council's betrayal. They were chaos opposing order, change opposing stagnation. The ancient controllers were not destroyed. Instead, they were contained within a pocket dimension where they could exist without threatening the development of younger species. The Void. Machines were reprogrammed to serve as gardeners rather than destroyers, tasked with nurturing civilizations rather than consuming them. As the immediate threat ended, Rachel turned her attention to the survivors of galactic civilization. The Council worlds that remained were populated by species on the verge of extinction, their technology primitive compared to what humanity had achieved. Ambassador Linda Ross materialized on the Council's flagship, her form carefully modulated to appear merely advanced rather than godlike. She had been chosen for her diplomatic experience and her ability to communicate with beings who still existed in normal space-time. "The threat has ended," she announced to the assembled Council survivors. "The void machines are defeated, and the consumed worlds are being restored." Speaker Veltar could barely process what he was hearing. "You saved us. After what we did to you, you saved us." "We saved the galaxy," Linda corrected gently. "Not for you, but for all the innocent lives that would have been lost. The age of councils and committees is over. Humanity will establish a new order based on merit and the protection of all sentient life." The restoration process took months. As human ships worked to rebuild entire sectors of the galaxy, they did not simply return things to their previous state. Instead, they improved upon the original designs, creating worlds more beautiful and civilizations more just than what had existed before. Former Council Speaker Veltar stood on the surface of New Nexus, a world that humanity had constructed to replace the destroyed Council Station. The planet was a masterpiece of impossible architecture, with cities that floated in mid-air and forests that grew upward into space itself. Around him, children from dozens of species played together in parks that existed in folded space, their laughter echoing across dimensions. Their parents worked alongside humans in building the new galactic civilization, no longer as subjects or junior partners, but as equals under the protection of beings who had chosen benevolence over dominance. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we had trusted them from the beginning?" asked Dr. Zass, now serving as scientific advisor to the new Galactic administration. Veltar watched a group of human children who appeared normal except for their eyes, which held depths that seemed to contain entire universes. "We would have grown together instead of apart. They might have remained mortal instead of becoming gods. Do you regret our choice?" 10 years had passed since humanity's return to the galaxy, and the universe itself seemed different. Captain Troy Mitchell stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, watching as his mixed crew of humans and aliens worked together with an efficiency that would have been impossible under the old council system. Mitchell was no longer the lonely human officer serving a dying council. He had been given command of one of the new exploration vessels, tasked with finding species that had hidden from the void machines during the Dark Centuries. His crew included both biological humans and the transformed beings who had returned from exile, working side by side with aliens who were still adjusting to their new reality. "Captain, we are receiving signals from the Kepler sector," reported Lieutenant Sarah Wells, one of the few purely biological humans left in the fleet. She had chosen to remain in her original form, saying she preferred to experience the universe through organic senses. "It looks like survivors from the Molten Worlds." Mitchell nodded. The Molten Worlds had been consumed early in the Void Machine. Rampage, their silicon-based inhabitants presumed extinct. Finding survivors would be another small miracle in a galaxy full of them. "Set course for the signals," he ordered, "and send word to the Restoration Council. They'll want to prepare another refugee fleet." The Restoration Council was humanity's gift to the galaxy. Led by beings who could manipulate reality itself, they had taken on the task of rebuilding not just destroyed worlds, but entire civilizations. Every week brought news of another species pulled back from extinction, another world restored to life. As the New Horizon moved through space using quantum drives that made the old council's fastest ships look like sailing boats, Mitchell reflected on how much had changed. The rigid hierarchies and political games of the old council had been replaced by something simpler and more effective. Humans led because they were the most capable, but they led by example rather than force. "Captain," called out Chief Engineer Vexha, a crystalline being whose people had once been slaves under the old system. "The quantum drive is showing unusual readings. We're detecting massive energy signatures ahead." Mitchell moved to the sensor display. The readings were unlike anything in their databases. "Could it be another human ship?" "Negative, sir. The quantum signature is different. More ancient." Before Mitchell could respond, space itself seemed to bend around them. A vessel appeared that defied description. It was larger than most space stations, built from materials that seemed to shift between states of matter. The ship's design suggested intelligence far older than any known species. "Unknown vessel. This is Captain Mitchell of the New Horizon," he broadcast on all frequencies. "Please identify yourself." The response came not through their communication systems, but directly into their minds. The voice was ancient beyond measure, carrying the weight of eons. "We are the architects. We have watched this galaxy for millions of years, waiting for a species worthy of contact. You humans have proven yourselves through your mercy toward those who betrayed you." Mitchell felt a chill of recognition. The architects were mentioned in the oldest council records as mysterious beings who had vanished from the galaxy long before intelligent life had evolved on most worlds. "We thought you were myths," Mitchell admitted. We withdrew from active participation when the younger species began to show promise. But we have observed everything. Your exile, your growth, your return. You have passed a test that we created long ago." "A test?" Lieutenant Wells asked. "The void machines were not weapons of destruction. They were instruments of evaluation. We needed to know if any species could transcend the cycle of betrayal and revenge that has plagued this galaxy for eons. Your people are the first to choose forgiveness over vengeance." The implication struck Mitchell like a physical blow. "You mean the Council's betrayal, the exile, all of it was planned?" "Not planned, observed. We did not cause these events, but we knew they were possible outcomes based on the nature of the species involved. Your people's response exceeded our most optimistic projections." On New Terra, Supreme Commander Rachel, Stone received the report of first contact with the architects with a mixture of wonder and concern. She convened an emergency session of the Strategic Council, bringing together the most advanced human minds in existence. "They've been watching us for millions of years," Dr. Reeves observed, his consciousness flickering through probability states as he processed the information. "Testing every species that reached spaceflight capability. And we're the first to—" "Pass their test," added Admiral Brooks. "The question is, what happens now?" Ambassador Linda Ross, who had been working with newly restored alien civilizations, raised a concern. "If the architects have been manipulating galactic development, what does that mean for the species we're helping to rebuild?" Rachel considered the question. The humans had become gardeners of civilization, nurturing the growth of younger species. But if they themselves had been guided by even more advanced beings, it raised questions about free will and natural development. "We meet with them," Rachel decided. "As equals, not as subjects. We've earned that right through our choices, regardless of whether those choices were anticipated." The meeting took place in neutral space, far from any inhabited system. The architect vessel dwarfed even humanity's largest ships, but the humans were not intimidated. They had faced and defeated enemies that consumed galaxies. Ancient observers held no terror for them. The architects appeared as beings of pure thought, their forms shifting between geometric patterns and abstract concepts. They communicated through direct mental contact, their thoughts carrying the wisdom of ages. "You have questions," the lead architect observed. "Many," Rachel replied. "But first, we want to understand your purpose. Are you gardeners like us, or something else?" "We are shepherds of possibility. We guide the development of intelligence throughout the universe, ensuring that it grows toward wisdom rather than destruction. Most species fail this test. They choose power over compassion, dominance over cooperation, and those that fail? They destroy themselves, usually within a few thousand years of achieving spaceflight. The void machines simply accelerate the inevitable. But you chose differently. You could have returned as conquerors, as gods demanding worship. Instead, you became protectors. Dr. Reeves joined the mental conversation. "What do you want from us now?" "Partnership. The universe is vast, and there are many galaxies where intelligence is just beginning to develop. They will need guides, teachers, examples of what is possible when species choose growth over stagnation." The offer was tempting, but Rachel sensed there was more to it. "And in return?" "You will learn. We are not the only architects in the universe. There are challenges ahead that even your advanced capabilities cannot face alone. But together, we can ensure that consciousness and compassion spread throughout existence." The negotiations that followed lasted for days, conducted at the speed of thought between beings who existed partially outside normal time. When they concluded, humanity had gained something unprecedented, true equals in the cosmic community. The partnership that emerged would transform not just the galaxy, but the universe itself. Humans would continue their work as gardeners of civilization, but now they would have access to knowledge and technologies developed over millions of years. The architects, in turn, would gain something they had never experienced, true companions in their cosmic mission. On the restored world of New Earth, children from 100 different species played in gardens that grew according to their collective imagination. Above them, the stars themselves had been arranged to tell stories of hope and possibility. And somewhere among those stars, the next chapter of the greatest adventure in existence was just beginning. The Council had betrayed Earth, humanity had left, and time had not waited for anyone. But in the end, time had proven that mercy and wisdom were the greatest powers in the universe, capable of transforming even ancient betrayal into the foundation for a better tomorrow. Commander Lisa Martinez stood at the edge of reality itself, watching a new universe being born. The sight was beyond anything her ancestors could have imagined. Swirling clouds of pure possibility condensing into matter, energy, and the fundamental forces that would govern countless worlds for billions of years to come. The seeding process is complete, reported her science officer, Dr. Kevin Ross, his consciousness existing simultaneously in both biological form and quantum computation space. This universe should develop naturally for the next few billion years before intelligent life begins to emerge. Lisa nodded, though the gesture felt strange when performed by a being whose body was composed of organized light patterns. She was part of humanity's newest mission, the Universal Gardening Project. Working alongside the architects, humans had learned to create entire universes designed to nurture the development of consciousness and compassion. "Any sign of the shadow devourers in this sector?" she asked. Dr. Ross checked his readings. His awareness extending across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Negative. This region appears clean of their influence. The Shadow Devourers were humanity's newest enemy, though calling them an enemy was not entirely accurate. They were not evil in any conventional sense. Instead, they were the opposite of consciousness, a form of anti-life that sought to return the universe to the empty silence that had existed before the first thought was ever conceived. Where the void machines had been tools created by the architects to test developing civilizations, the shadow devourers were something far older and more dangerous. They came from the spaces between universes, seeking to unmake everything that had ever been created. Signal from the architect vessel Eternal Wisdom, reported Communications Officer Amy Chen, one of the few humans who had chosen to remain in purely biological form. They want to discuss the situation in the Spiral Galaxy Cluster. Lisa felt a familiar weight of responsibility. The Spiral Galaxy Cluster contained over 1,000 galaxies, each with billions of star systems where life was just beginning to develop. If the Shadow Devourers had found that region, trillions of potential civilizations could be destroyed before they ever had a chance to exist. "Set course for the rendezvous point," Lisa ordered. "Maximum speed." The ship around them, if it could still be called a ship, existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously. It was grown rather than built, a living entity that had been created through the merger of human innovation and architect knowledge. The journey to the rendezvous point took them through folded space-time, arriving at their destination in what felt like seconds, but actually involved traveling across millions of light-years. The eternal wisdom was waiting for them. It's impossible. Geometry. A testament to millions of years of technological development. The architect vessel seemed to be constructed from crystallized mathematics, its form shifting between states that had no names in any language. The meeting took place in a specially created pocket of reality where biological humans, transcended humans, and architects could interact safely. The space appeared as a vast garden filled with plants from 1,000 different worlds, their impossible colors creating patterns that spoke directly to the observer's consciousness. Chief Architect Zenthala appeared as a flowing sequence of geometric shapes that somehow conveyed both ancient wisdom and urgent concern. When the being spoke, its thoughts emerged as concepts rather than words. "The Shadow Devourers have penetrated the spiral cluster," Zenthala communicated. "They are not simply destroying individual worlds. They are unmaking the fundamental structures that allow consciousness to exist in that region." Lisa felt the implications like a cold wind across her enhanced awareness. How many species are at risk? Approximately 47,000 civilizations at various stages of development. From primitive tool users to species on the verge of spaceflight. If the Shadow Devourers succeed, none of them will ever have existed. Dr. Ross joined the mental conversation, his thoughts carrying complex mathematical models. "Can we evacuate them?" "Evacuation is not possible," Zenthala replied. "The Shadow Devourers do not merely kill. They edit reality itself, removing all traces that their targets ever existed. Moving the threatened species would only delay their fate." "Then we fight," Lisa said simply. "Combat with the Shadow Devourers is different from conventional warfare. They exist partially outside the normal flow of causality. Weapons that affect matter and energy are useless against beings made of crystallized nothingness." Lisa had faced impossible odds before. Humanity's entire history had been a series of challenges that should have destroyed them, but instead made them stronger. "What do you recommend?" "We have been developing new weapons based on human creativity combined with architect knowledge. Tools that can impose existence on nothingness, that can force reality to continue existing even when the Shadow Devourers try to unmake it." The battle preparations took place across multiple universes simultaneously. Human engineers worked alongside architect artificers to create weapons that existed as living paradoxes. Tools of creation designed for warfare, instruments of life built to fight death itself. Admiral Danny Brooks commanded the assault fleet. From a ship that was simultaneously a vessel, a weapon, and a small universe in its own right. His crew included beings who had transcended every limitation their ancestors had known, yet still retained the essential human drive to protect the innocent. "The Shadow Devourers have begun their final assault on the spiral cluster," reported his tactical officer, Commander Janet Pierce. Her consciousness existed as a network of quantum possibilities, allowing her to perceive threats across multiple dimensions simultaneously. "They're targeting the foundational structures of space-time itself. All ships, engage the reality anchors," Brooks ordered. "We're going to make sure that cluster stays real whether the Shadow Devourers like it or not." The battle that followed could not be described in conventional terms. The humans and architects fought not with weapons of destruction, but with tools of absolute creation, They fired beams of pure existence at enemies made of nothingness, deployed shields of crystallized reality against attacks that tried to convince the universe that their targets had never been born. Lisa found herself in direct combat with a shadow devourer that appeared as a hole in reality shaped vaguely like a spider. The entity's attacks tried to make her forget that she had ever existed, but her enhanced consciousness was too complex to be simply erased. "You should not be," the shadow devourer communicated through the absence of thought. "Nothing should be. Existence is an error that must be corrected." "Existence is a choice," Lisa replied, using weapons that fired concentrated possibility at her opponent. "And we choose to exist." The shadow devourer writhed as the possibility beam struck it, forcing it to acknowledge realities it had tried to deny. Around them, the battle raged across scales that ranged from subatomic to galactic, with humans and architects working together to impose their will on entities that represented the fundamental negation of everything. In the end, it was humanity's greatest strength that won the day. Their refusal to accept that anything was impossible. While the architects had the knowledge and tools needed to fight the shadow devourers, they had become perhaps too wise, too accepting of cosmic limitations. Humans retained the stubborn insistence that reality should conform to their expectations, rather than the other way around. The shadow devourers were not destroyed. They could not be destroyed any more than darkness could be eliminated by fighting it with weapons. Instead, they were contained within specially created pocket universes where their nature could exist without threatening the development of consciousness elsewhere. As the battle ended, Lisa stood once again at the edge of reality, watching the spiral cluster's galaxies continue their ancient dance. In 1 billion years, some of the species they had saved would develop spaceflight. In 10 billion years, some might even transcend their original limitations as humanity had done. "Do you think they'll remember us?" Dr. Ross asked, his consciousness touching hers across the quantum foam. "They don't need to remember us," Lisa replied. "They just need to have the chance to become themselves." Behind them, the combined fleets of humanity and the architects prepared for the next mission. Somewhere in the vast expanse of existence, other threats were stirring, other challenges were waiting. But for now, trillions of unborn civilizations had been given the most precious gift in the universe, the opportunity to exist, to grow, and to choose their own destiny. The Council had betrayed Earth so long ago that the event had become legend. But the consequences of that betrayal continued to ripple across the cosmos, creating waves of change that would shape the development of consciousness throughout all existence. Humanity had learned that the greatest victory was not conquest, but the simple act of ensuring that others had the chance to write their own stories among the stars.